Commander Vexthor's crystalline form vibrated with barely contained irritation as he reviewed the Academy's admission logs. The Galactic Military Institute had stood for 3,000 cycles, training the finest officers from 100 civilized worlds. Now, for the first time, they were required to accept cadets from the death world called Earth. Mandatory integration, he muttered, his translator converting the harmonic resonance into standard galactic. What could these primitives possibly teach us? The answer came during the first training exercise. Marcus Rodriguez stood at barely 2 meters, diminutive by most species standards. Yet something about his stance made the Thraxian combat instructor step back. When the 8-foot-tall insectoid warrior launched his attack, moving with the speed that made his species legendary, Marcus didn't dodge. He rolled forward, using the Thraxian's own momentum against him, and within seconds had the massive alien pinned using something he called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. "Impossible," whispered Cadet Zictal, her feathers ruffling in disbelief. Her species, the Aviacs, prided themselves on aerial combat supremacy. Yet when paired against Emma Thompson in the zero-gravity combat chamber, the human had somehow predicted every dive, every swooping attack. Emma had grown up rock climbing in Colorado, she explained later, casually braiding her hair, as if she hadn't just revolutionized three-dimensional combat theory. The academic courses proved equally humbling. The Cerebrands, with their enhanced neural capacity, had always dominated theoretical tactics. But when presented with the Kobayashi Maru scenario, a test designed by humans apparently, they found themselves paralyzed by the no-win situation. Meanwhile, Cadet James Mitchell simply grinned and cheated, reprogramming the simulation mid-test. "You can't do that," Professor Crix had protested, his tentacles flashing indigo with outrage. "Why not?" James shrugged. "You said find a solution. Nobody said it had to be fair. The combat endurance trials should have been where the humans faltered. The course was designed for the hardy Chronari, who could run for days without rest. Yet Alexander Petrov simply kept going. When his muscles should have failed, when his body should have shut down, he switched to what he called mental autopilot, a state where his mind disconnected from physical pain. "We evolved on a world trying to kill us," he explained to a horrified medical team, his vitals showing damage that would have incapacitated any other species. This is just Tuesday. But it wasn't their physical capabilities that truly disturbed the galactic community. It was their psychology. During the crisis simulation, when the station's life support failed and they had 30 minutes of air remaining, the Vorthan cadets immediately began calculating the most logical distribution of resources. The Etherians started their death harmonies, accepting their fate with grace. The humans? They looked at each other, nodded, and got to work. Using stripped wiring, emergency rations, and what one instructor swore was duct tape produced from thin air, they rigged a carbon dioxide scrubber from training equipment. When asked how they knew to do this, Jennifer Park mentioned something about Apollo 13, as if that explained everything. The final lesson came during the diplomatic simulation. An impossible scenario. Negotiate peace between two species locked in a centuries-old blood feud. The sophisticated diplomatic corps cadets tried every technique, logic, empathy, economic incentives. All failed. Then Robert Jackson stood up, looked at both delegations and said, "You both think you're right. You're both wrong. But you're also both scared. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna share a meal. My grandmother's recipe. And we're gonna talk about our kids." 3 hours later, over something called jambalaya, that violated 17 different dietary restrictions, but somehow tasted transcendent, the two species signed their first ceasefire in 300 years. Commander Vexthor's report to the Galactic Council was brief. "The humans break every rule we've established about warfare, survival, and diplomacy. They're chaotic, unpredictable, and impossibly resilient. They treat death as an inconvenience, physics as a suggestion, and impossibility as a challenge." He paused, then added, "Recommend immediate full integration. If we don't make them our allies, the galaxy doesn't stand a chance when they decide to be our enemies." The council voted unanimously. Every species had learned the same lesson. Humans weren't just from a death world. They had become death's masters, and somehow, impossibly, they'd made friends with it along the way.